Welcome to Two Gents, where two seasoned gents take on the hard truths of life, success, and responsibility. In a world where the rules don't bend for us, these gents believe in doing the work, owning the struggle, and inspiring others to take action. So, pull up a chair.
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to Two Gents Podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Ron Spikes, out here. I hope you can see me, hear me, and understand, because we had a little bit of a problem last time I got out here. And I kind of checked it out. I tested it a couple of times. I did my mic test, trying to get my earphones corrected right. But, you know, today is a different show. I got to build on it a little bit because today is a different show. See, a lot of people take what's going on in the world right now as for granted. But they don't know that this could change our lives. A lot of times we get caught up in the wrong thing. And I think that this is a situation where we need to be aware of the history and how people feel the way that they do about us as a whole. I think that we sometimes we marginalize stuff, and as we marginalize it, we don't think it affects us. That's my cable, but we don't think it affects us. Let me tell you a little bit of history about how I got to this conclusion. Yesterday, I was upset. No, I'm tell you, I was upset. I wasn't upset about what happened, but I was upset about the responses that are going on in the media. And I wanted to go on yesterday. I even told Glass, I called Glass. I said, man, I want to do a show. I want to do a show. And he said, Ron said, when are you going to do it? And I told him I'm going to do it later on. But I went out and got my information. I went out and put all this stuff together. And I started over the night, after sleeping on it, thinking about it. I said, you know, the show that I would have put on yesterday would have been a little bit different and a little bit more direct than this one is. Because I'm glad that I put some thought into it. You know, we see that Trump went out and bombed Iran. We see that. We see all the stuff that's going on with Netanyahu. But I don't want us to get too far away from how we got here. And to my earliest recollection, mine. Let me share this with you, and I'm gonna try to bring you in the reason why I look at it like this. When I was in the service, I went in the service as a PFC back in 1980. In being in the service, it was one of the things that they kind of did. This is when people had a purpose, and when people were still trying to be in the service with a purpose, and they were trying to do stuff. And when you're on that side of it, when you wear an American green and all the rest of that, they do stuff to motivate you, almost like when you play a game or you're part of a team or you're trying to get everybody on the same page. They do stuff to motivate you. So at that time, if I'm correct, I remember there was Reagan was running against Jimmy Carter. And a lot of people say, well, what does Reagan have to do with what's going on now? He has a lot to do with it. And it's a lot of other people that didn't take ownership of what was going on at that particular time. There's a lot of people over the years that have never taken ownership or tried to do anything to mend the relationship. And this propaganda thing that we call the media has used its tentacles to take us to a place where we can't understand what's going on in the world and how it comes back to affect us as a whole. So let me kind of tell you what I was telling you about this private. This private was in the service. He heard his sergeants and his commanders and everybody talking about, they had a statement out there. What's flat and glows? It might not make sense to you, but it makes sense to me now. I can't tell you what my MOS was at that time, but they say what's flat and glows. It was at the same time Reagan was going into office. And there was a couple of situations that was out there. They had the hostages, 444 days. Jimmy Carter was still in office, but he was about to leave. So I'm gonna tell you about American politics. So Jimmy Carter could have got the hostages out during his term, and he would have won at that time. But see, what the other side did was they were saying that it's his fault that the hostages was there. It's his fault that the hostages happened at that particular time, and they pinned it to him. They pinned it to Carter. So when the election came about, Reagan's narrative was, you own the hostages. You never got them out. And now you're expecting us to give you more time as president to continue as the president for your 8 years. And America was kind of upset. But if you think about it, that was just as crucial as, and I'm gonna bring you up to date because I want to go back and forth to get you kind of in the context of what happened there. That was almost like Hillary coming up saying, when they came up and they say, Hillary, we got all these emails out here. We got emails. It changed the course of the election at that point. When I say it changed the course of the election at that time. And it made it seem like Hillary was doing something wrong with her emails. Same thing with Joe Biden. So you have to understand politics, and then you have to tie it back to what's going on right now. And that's my objective right now, is to try to tie you back into what's going on at the time that Reagan was in office. But there was more going on when Reagan was in office. That's got us to this point. So what Reagan did, Reagan went out, even though Jimmy Carter had negotiated the hostages being free. Reagan was running for office, so he goes out and he goes and tells, I'm gonna tell you, Iran, don't release the hostages. We'll make some deals after I get into office. So he made some promises after he got in office. So the hostages never got released. So that caused Jimmy Carter's to go down in flames. So politics have always played a big role. The difference between the politics that's being played now is that you get people like myself, like Byron Glass, you get Pastor Reagan. We go out and research it and we look at it and we analyze it. We give you our opinion. But the most important thing that we do is we tell you to go out and do your own research. Don't just follow me. Don't just listen to what me and Byron's saying. Don't listen to what me and Pastor Reagan's, because we're processing a thought for you to follow and get your own conclusions, because it's so much media out there today. I was shocked. As a matter of fact, when I was sitting up there looking last night, I was surprised because some of these YouTube channels, I'm not talking about government. I'm not talking about the words that the government put out. I'm talking about they broke down the missile, how it was carried, how the aircraft could fly over, and they had different type of animations going on. And I was just listening to these people. Now this thing just happened the day before, and they didn't put all of this together and they added it all up. So technology is different. It took us, I want to say, years to find out what Reagan did with those hostages. It took years for us to find out the real story behind that. And still today, it's people that's so faithful to Reagan's era that they just don't know how much damage he did to the United States of America. And part of the reason why we're in this war, and I can't put it all on him, because if you go back from Reagan to Trump, it's a span of time in between there. But it's always been this conflict or this issue with Iran. And I'm going to name one more country out there because I told you. And I need you to understand this because this is going to be relevant to this as we move on. When I was in the service, I'll never forget, I was at Shape, Belgium. You can go back and look it up. I was at Shape, Belgium. And this helicopter was flying in and they had this big meeting going on. And you'll never guess who the person was. I didn't say it this story, but I'm going to say it again. This person was Saddam Hussein. Now, I'm in the military, and I'm just a little low-ranking person. I'm out there in support of whatever's going on. But every single officer out there, to include foreign countries from around the world, when this thing was going on in Shape, Belgium, was saying, here comes Saddam Hussein, here comes Saddam Hussein. You would swear that he was the next coming because that's the way they treated him. Now, at the context of where I fit into this, I was actually a driver at the time for some, and they assigned me some Turkish officers, but I didn't know what kind of Turkish officers I had at that time. I couldn't even tell you their name. Only thing I knew that one of them spoke English, and he was very clear in what he said. When they got in my car, we had a front car, we had a chase car. They had weapons in both cars. Now, I'm not just talking about little bitty pistols like you see. I'm talking about they were armed up to the T, and even the guy in the car with me, young and dumb, young, not thinking, not the guy that I am right now. Even the guy in me had a machine gun that was right on his side. I'm thinking that, hey, if it gets off, I'm what you call it. But here's the instruction that the guy told me. He said, this is what we need you to do. We need for you to stay right behind the car that's in front of you. If that car slow down, you slow down. If that car don't slow down, you don't slow down. You continue to follow that car. Now, mind you, I'm young, dumb, crazy. I don't care what's going on. I can handle a car. And they gave us all this training out there. And we went through it, and I was driving. But I never thought about what I was doing till after I was out of the service. And especially when the Iraq crisis came up, because the Iraq crisis was about Saddam Hussein. And you might be asking me, why is he talking about Iraq and we're in Iran? If you go back in your history and you ask yourself some serious questions, you ask yourself, who were we backing at that time? Which side was America on? See, Saddam Hussein was coming to America. He had been in many different places. He had some great ideas. Now, he was a vicious person in his country. But see, America lets you exist. No matter how bad you are in your country and what you do to your people, as long as you follow the rules of America. I'm going to say it again, because sometimes in the service they say we have to say it twice. As long as you follow the rules that America sets, you can do whatever you want to do. And they're not going to intervene. I don't care how much the media talks about it or whatever. They're not going to intervene. And I'm going to tie this. See, you always got to tie it back to modern day. I bet you a lot of y'all didn't know that a reporter got killed that was an American while Biden was in office. female. Her family's still fighting to get recognition of this reporter that was killed. U.S. American reporter. And you know who shot her? Who shot her in uniform? Israel. One of Israel's soldiers. This is not propaganda. This is something that I know that happened. You know what Biden did? It never really made it to media because it was something that they didn't want to get out there because he was intertwined with Israel. So I tell you, when you go out of the country and you travel, when you travel to these different countries, and you out there thinking that you're American, and you think that they're gonna come save you, you better think twice because that country has its own rules. And most of the time, America has to go by their rules, even for soldiers. It ain't not like let me just say this because I've seen a lot of pictures like this. It ain't like it's a cruise line where you're on a ship going somewhere and you get into a argument or something like that on a cruise ship that's going to a destination, coming from a destination. If you do it before you get to destination, they drop you there and you have to find your way back. You can get an airplane there and find your way back to America. But if you do it on the way back, you could get off that cruise ship and go home. Well, if you commit a crime in another country or you violate their rules in another country, you're going to jail. You're going straight to jail. Now, the Americans might send somebody over there to talk to you, but they can't walk in there with a key and unlock the door and take you out with them. I don't care how right you may say you are. So you travel, you go to these countries and you travel. Now, I'm not getting off base. I'm going to bring this out. I want to make a point. But you go to these countries and you forget that you're in there under their rules. It was a lot of stuff, and I'm going to go back to this because it was a lot of stuff going on in the 80s. There was a lot of stuff going on in the 80s, and I'm going to tie this back, hopefully where we can understand it. I want you to remember this, what I'm about to tell you. Iran-Contra. Iran-Contra. A lot of people don't know this, and we let this slip through history, and we let it slip through time, and I haven't heard nobody out there in mainstream media saying anything about how we got here to this point. Only thing they worried about is they want to call Trump a lie. They want to call Netanyahu the problem maker. There's some truth to that, but you need to know the history of how we got here in order for you to understand how Netanyahu, he didn't only play Trump. Don't even try, because I hear some Democrats saying, oh, that's just Trump. You know, Trump caused all of this. No, Trump didn't cause all of this. No, he didn't. It's something that he inherited. I'm not saying that he's a genius out there, but he inherited some problems that existed during Biden's era. He inherited some problems that existed during Obama's era. He inherited some problems that existed during Clinton's era. But yet we want to hold a person accountable for actions that they took. But look how many years they've been kicking this ball down the street. Or a can. You ever seen a kid out there kicking a can down the street? Through all those other presidents that was out there, nobody addressed the issue. Nobody addressed the issue what's going on in Iran. Nobody addressed the issue that that's just a small 21-mile strip where majority of the American fuel and oil flows through over there from Iran. Iran is on one side, and it's another country on the other side. But Iran has always controlled that little. The problem that's going on today has always been that little patch of transportation where the oil comes out of. You want to know why China and Russia and everybody else trying to get involved with this on the opposite side of Iran? It's because that little strip of waterway that I'm telling you about is where majority of the world gets their oil. That's the way they get it. It comes out of there. As much oil as we have here, that's where it comes from. We bring it from there. Yeah, we have some oil here. We can always fall back, but they try to use our oil as a safety net. But that's where majority of the oil flows through. And don't take my word for it. Go out there and Google it, look up Iran, and go to the south part of the country and see it's a little bit of strip there. Majority of the ships carrying oil come through that little strip of water that's right there. And that conflict has been going on since Reagan. Now, I'm just going back as far as Reagan. It may have went on before then. Any time that you have oil out there, it's going to always be a conflict when you can control the source of it. But what the main cause of I won't bring this over because I don't like doing this, but I have to do my research too, and I have to make sure that I'm on point when I say this, because I'm supposed to get into make some points about what's going on right now that you need to understand about the past. The main cause of the intense hostility between U.S. and Iran began at the Reagan era, at Reagan's presidency. The intense. I got somebody calling me and I can't answer. And I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to put them on hold and I'm going to go to what you call it. The hostility stemmed from the 1979, remember what I told you, Iranian Revolution. 44-day hostage crisis at the embassy in Tehran. That's the one I was telling you about when Carter was in office and Reagan was coming into office. And the hostages stayed there for 444 days while Carter was in office. But he had negotiated with Iran to get them out. But Reagan came behind him and promised something to Iran. And when he promised it, the day, if you think about it, Inauguration Day, what happened? And it goes back to what I was saying earlier when I was in the military. What's flat and glows after Reagan gets into office? That's what was going to be flat and glows. And I'm talking about, when I say glows, I'm talking about nuclear weapons being used at that time, because they wouldn't releasing the hostages. But you see how people in government they tell you one side of the story and they go behind you. And when they go behind the story, they come up with different stories and they put it out there and they put it in history books and they change the narrative. And when they change the narrative, you find out years later that it wasn't true. That's important. Embassy in Tehran. Where's Tehran? Tehran is in Iran. Sometimes we have to just open up our minds and just kind of listen to what's happening, to what's going on. And we weren't the ones that was in war at that time. The U.S. positioned itself between Iran and Iraq for the purpose of controlling that little piece of water that I was telling you about. See, I had to do some history myself, but I want to tell you how we got in this. Because if you never understand, because they're not saying anything about Reagan, they won't say anything about Reagan in mainstream media. They'll talk about what Biden's not doing, what Harris not doing, but they don't bring you up to date and take you back to where it initially started. See, Reagan was, what was he? What party was he with? You'd be surprised. You won't be surprised because he wasn't. I tell you what, he wasn't with the Democratic Party, and we got a two-party system going on in America. So I'm gonna let you guess which party he was with. So they got involved in that war, and during that war, it also developed into what they call it. You remember that little strip of land I was telling you about? The tanker war. The tanker war. At that time, the U.S. and still majority of them, other countries at that time, this is back in the 80s, were dependent on that oil shipments coming through that thing, that little strip. Tie this back to today so you can understand. That same strip of waterway that's out there is still there. But see, what they're saying is that Iran might go out there and close it down again. This is after the bombing of the bunkers of the nuclear program that the Iran has in place, done by the U.S. So they say that will totally change the whole concept of America. China, Russia, and everybody else that depends on any fuels that's out there. It's going to change their market. Now, when it starts changing the market, everybody's going to want to get involved. Everybody's going to pick a side. China and Russia right now are trying to get on the side of Iran. Because they don't, we're the arch enemy of anybody, right now, because of the person that's in office. He really don't, let me just say this, he really don't care about nobody but himself. But this just happened to be on his plate that he had to try to resolve, and he tried to use some two-cent psychology to do it. So he told them they had 2 weeks, and he go out the next day and bomb them. I don't know who told him that, but that was the smartest strategy I ever heard him do. And I normally don't give him credit. But I know how hard it was for them to tell him to keep his mouth shut. Don't go out there and say nothing. Don't go out there and brag. He actually stuck to a strip. Can you believe that? That's the type of leader that we got in place. I'm not saying that he did anything right, but I'm just telling you, he stuck to that strip. It's a couple of things that you need to go out there and research, and I'm going to give you a name of one. It's called Operation Praying Mantis. You need to find out what Operation Praying Mantis and the significance of that was, because it kind of tells you that how we got to where we at. Back in 1988, Operation Praying Mantis, April 1988, was a major U.S. battle triggered by Iran mine damaging a U.S. freighter coming through that body of water that I've been telling you about. This that's really important at this time. The U.S. destroyed Iran oil platforms, vessels, marking the U.S. Navy's surface engagement since World War II. Largest surface engagement since World War II. That means that the U.S. vessels went over there in that little strip of land and engaged with Iranian oil platforms. They destroyed them. And the vessels that Iran had. And that was the largest engagement since World War II, 1988. Remember that. because it's important. It's important if you want to understand how it's one of the things of how we're over there in Iran right now, how we getting here. We're gonna continue moving because it's important that we get there. They had a ship called the USS Vincent. I want to spell it because I want you to be able to research what I'm saying. Vincennes incident that escalated the tensions in that little bitty place I'm telling you about. and I want you to hear this. In July 1988, the U.S. cruiser USS Vincennes mistakenly shot down Iran Air Flight 655. Listen to what I'm about to say. So you can go back and Google this or find it out for yourself. Guess how many people was on that airplane that they shot down? 290 people. I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute. The airplane didn't go down by on its own. It was like you getting on a commercial airline and you flying over Iran and they shoot it out of the sky. What did I tell you about history? It's a lot of history that we gotta take in about what's going on today. And the reason why Iran feels the way that it does, and it was because of the decisions that people made behind the scenes over the years. Just imagine if, and I need you to lend your imagination. Just imagine if this was America. If this was America and 290 people on board an airplane was shot down by the Iranian vessel, Navy vessel, how would you feel? How do you think America would respond? They don't have the capability to do it like America could respond. America has opportunity to respond to issues that other countries don't have at their liberties. So you have to, one of the things that you have to do is you have to take it and go back in history and look at how we got here. We're going to walk through it. As we walk through it, I just want to add a little bit and let you understand how we got here. How did we get here? And like I say, anybody that's out there that's in Iran that had a relative, a sister, a brother, a cousin, or anything that was on that airplane at that time, they would feel the same way that we do about our people. Now I'm taking you through this so you can understand that this didn't just start. The other part, I'm going through this because I'm able to narrate and I'm going back and forth. I'm not the smartest person. I take notes too, so I don't put out wrong information. Reagan administration designated Iran a state sponsor of terrorism in 1984. So in other words, it's a terroristic state. And that's probably when everything started to fall off for Iran. But you just shot down the airplane. See, if you don't break it down, somebody have you believing that this just happened all of a sudden. It didn't just happen all of a sudden that all of a sudden we in a conflict with Iran over something that happened, over something that's going on. See, at this time, I gotta say this part because it's key to what I'm building up to. None of this, up until this point, has been about nuclear weapons and the development of nuclear weapons. It's about incidents that have happened. That ship shooting down those 290 people. We building up. We keep it going. Then you turn around, maybe because you know what you did, and maybe the American press didn't get it out there like they should have, because you was able to curtail it on this end. 290 victims. And this name gonna be familiar from 1980. I'm tying it all together, and hopefully you can see a picture developing. Iran supported groups like Hezbollah. I'm gonna try to do it the best way I can. Got a little country twang in there. Hezbollah, responsible for attacks on U.S. targets, such as the American Embassy and Marine barracks, bombing in Beirut. That was a big issue. Now, America want to respond with great force when it happens to them. Nothing against it. But when it's happening to somebody else outside the U.S., they happen to have selective amnesia. 290 people, innocent people, trying to go somewhere. But when they attacked that embassy and those Marines, and they were bombing in Beirut, Hezbollah. I wish I would have had Glass here because he could have helped me. Some of these words, but if you think about modern time, are we still talking about those same people? Iran and Hezbollah. Are we still talking about them? They're still relevant to what's going on in that little small strip of land, Iran on one side and the other country on the other side. And they still fighting this. They still going about trying to resolve their issues. And the reason why they're mad is because maybe somebody drew first blood. That's the way you want to understand it. And so they can't mount big attacks, but they can mount small attacks. And I can't say I blame them. I'm not anti-American, but it's just history that's going to get us to a point where we are right today. Trump wasn't president in 1988. Obama wasn't president in 1988. Biden wasn't president in 1988. But they served in an office that knew that all of this had happened before they got into office. Just saying. And I'm just a little old guy out here trying to share a little bit of history with you. You know, as we go through this thing, we have to get back to this one word, Iran-Contra scandal. And why was it so controversial? Iran-Contra scandal. Just remember Iran-Contra. Because if you go back and you Google Iran-Contra, if I'm right, let me make sure that I'm right before I say this. It was a scandal that involved U.S. arms, weapons from the U.S. sales to, guess who? You'll never guess. So I'm gonna tell you, Iran. Remember that deal I was telling you about that Reagan made? Remember that deal I was telling you about that Reagan made? The scandal involved secret U.S. arms sales to Iran to secure the hostages' release and funding the Contra rebels in Nicaragua illegally. It exposed America. It exposed America by publicly condemning Iran at the same time, while secretly arming it, condemning and arming. So in other words, you use the media to condemn them, but you secretly behind the scenes giving them weapons. And it all came out where it started changing the election. And as it started changing the election process, guess what? They didn't want it to go out to the media. They didn't want American people like us, and they were still controlling the media cycle at that time. So maybe it got out to one or two people that was out there that was in the media that could have made a difference, but they took the mainstream media and they choked it off. They choked it off and didn't give it the opportunity to get the message out there of exactly what was going on. And I'm gonna take you here because I listened to a guy that comes on the internet, and he seems like he's so frustrated. He's so upset about what's going on in Iran and what's going on right now. And he gets so frustrated that he says, you know what? I don't know. If we went back and look at our history, we would know how come Iran feels the way that they do. But people, what do they say about people? People want open books. They're good at listening to one-liners coming out of people's mouth. They're good at listening to people tell a story that they want to hear, and if it doesn't affect them, they're not worried about it. So you can go out there and talk about the man that's in office, but if he wasn't in office when all of this was going on, you inherit these problems as you accept that office, but nobody. I gave you a long list of names. Let me. Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump. First term, didn't do anything about it. Biden. Some of them had 8 years in office. One of them is responsible for more death than any other president that's out there. Secretly, behind the scenes that America didn't know about. But you know what all of them have in common? They're worried about a legacy. And you know who I'm going to give a pass on this? And it's going to shock you. I'm going to give Biden a pass. And you know the reason why I'm going to give Biden a pass? Because he really didn't know what was going on. That Biden that was in office when we first put him in office was a total different Biden than by the time he went out of office and the decision that was made for him. So I give him a pass. But everybody else that I called before that list, one of them is more responsible for him. Now, I'm going to tell you his famous statement. They tried to kill my daddy. They tried to kill my daddy. So I'm telling you, it's people out there responsible for stuff that mainstream media, or they out there giving you these one-liners, oh, this man is this man is that. Don't go with the one-liners. Ask them about the history of those countries. And I'm gonna go here because I got a whole lot of our own people accountable too. They still worried about Biden and Harris. What's the possibility that our whole life could change because of what happened? Now, you want to hold him accountable, but let me ask you a question, man. You know how I always like to tie it back to current events. The border opened up under Biden. Not the total border, because it was stuff that was going on before then. But it really opened up. Now, think about 1988, when I told you about them 290 passengers that got killed. I got this on my mind. I'm going to get revenge on America. So I can come in, I know I can't come in the normal way. I might come in the normal way because I'm going to go out and get all my education. But in the back of my mind, I know what happened to my relative. Now, the borders was open. There was tons of people flowing in. Texas was taking them, shipping them, giving them free transportation all over the United States. My governor, Abbott, was putting them all over the United States. Just letting them in because Biden administration say, that's what we got to do. So now you didn't open up an avenue and for people to go all over the United States. And when they got there with them buses, I guarantee you they didn't march them off the bus and screen each and every last one of them. If you went from here to New York, you had to stop a couple of places. You had to do a couple of things. You may not have the same amount of people that when you got on that bus that went there. And what if that was their purpose? I'm just trying to open your mind up to let you see that what's going on today has been because we kicked that can down the road, and now we want to hold not everybody accountable, but we want to hold one person accountable for what's going on. And they didn't initiate it, and none of the people that you're talking about even tried to solve it. That border crisis, it could have been solved. Y'all don't want to hear it. No, I'm going to tell you like a Baptist preacher sitting in the pulpit. Y'all don't want to hear the truth. Y'all don't want to hear the truth. Y'all want somebody to lie to you and make you feel good and tell you that everything's okay. Well, it's not okay. Because if it was okay, we wouldn't be here. And you remember that can I was telling you about they was kicking down the road? And I called out all of them presidents? Then and this is where I can hold Biden accountable for. He opened up the border and started letting them cross in like running water. And Abbott, what did he do? Put them on buses to all these sanctuary cities. Containment? No, no containment. But the other part is this. It's Nicaragua. Where is Nicaragua? I think that's down in South America somewhere. And what happened in the 1980s in the communities that wasn't served well, or the communities that was out there like LA, New York, different places? The government didn't develop crack, but somebody took cocaine and stretched it out and they used that money from, because the Congress and the Senate wasn't going to fund the rebels. So how did they get them funded? They flew in cocaine. Oh, y'all just think I'm out here playing, don't you? Y'all just think I'm out here playing. See, nobody's innocent in how we got here. But how many of the communities was destroyed because of the drugs that they put into the community? Then they came back and they tried to clean it up, talking about bad boys, what you gonna do when they come for you? But they put the drugs within those communities. And you don't know how all this ties back to where we at right now? Open your eyes, America. Open your eyes. Do a little bit of history. I keep telling you, don't take my word. Don't take my word. They was covering up. They was condemning Iran in the media and everywhere else while they was supplying weapons. Don't take my word for it. Go out there and type it in chat GPT or one of those AI sources and make sure you're on a source where you can ask direct questions. Because don't take my word for it. Go out there and do it. Because I'm tell you, you'll be surprised at what you get. We're going to move on from there. And you know, the question you should be asking yourself right now is, how did Reagan era policies contribute to the long-term Iran distrust? I done spelled out a few of them. 290 people on a plane that got shot down by a U.S. ship. If you heard about it, it wasn't like you heard about it every day. It wasn't like you heard about 200 American citizens got shot down over Iraq the same way. They didn't dig into it. But if you go back and you Google it, just Google that, 290 people killed by U.S. Navy. Shot down. And then you wonder how we got to where we at right now. Wouldn't you have distrust? And I'm gonna try to outline some of these so I'm gonna go with this because I don't want to be here that long. Hostage crisis, Navy battles, that ship that shot down 200 people, terrorism. They designated the country designated a terrorist country. The Iran-Contra deal. Mutual amnesty and distrust complicating diplomacy around the issues like Iran's nuclear program. And you want to know how it's about to get you into the point of why Iran decided to develop nuclear weapons. Wouldn't have been no different with the U.S. or anybody else. They just didn't get started at the same time everybody else was doing it, and now they developing nuclear weapons because they want to be protected from these big bad wolves. Oh, the same people. Oh, they was mad. They was mad with China and Russia and all the rest of them too. But each one of them had weapons of mass destruction. Those nuclear weapons. So what they did, they tried to develop their own. So what the big bad wolves are saying, no, you can't have nuclear weapons. No, you can't have them. We already know what if anything happens, we know what you plan on doing with them. And some people may be asking the big question. How does this tie back to Israel? Don't leave Israel out of this. Please don't. They're probably one of the smallest countries over there. But every conflict that happens over there happens through Israel. Listen to what I'm saying. Every conflict that's over there happens through Israel. Netanyahu, that's what we should call him. He knows about all of it. And he knows how to push the U.S. buttons to get what he wants. My thing would be with Netanyahu, what are the secrets that he holds over America? What are the secrets that he holds over America that we don't question anything that he does? We don't question anything that he does. Go back. Go back and go to that long list of presidents. What country has always been on the side with the U.S.? Doesn't matter what happens. And if you remember and this is something that I'm gonna point to the person that was in office, and you got to hold them accountable. But Democrats can't do it. They ain't gonna do it. He said that he was gonna be able to resolve each and every incident, war, and everything with Ukraine when he got in office. He's been in office a while. It don't sound like it's getting resolved. Not if you flying airplanes over there to bomb them. But some context and history about how we got here. I'm gonna move on because I need to get through this because I'm trying to go somewhere. Oh man, recent U.S. actions against Iran's nuclear program reflect the patterns that were established during the Reagan era. We didn't get here by nobody but Reagan. Some of the actions that was taken after Reagan were done because of Reagan. You can't play people against each other. And on one hand, you got the American media out there and you telling them that they're the enemy. And now you going behind them, giving them weapons and all the rest of that. You shot down 290 people, 290 innocent lives. You can't play both sides of the coin. Need to Google it. That's all I can say. You need to Google it. You have to Google it. Until you Google it, until you go out there and research it for yourself, you'll know the reason why we're here. Everything that I've told you has led up to this point of them developing nuclear weapons to protect themselves, of them being in agreement and people making false promises to them and people treating other countries like they don't belong. That's a country. That's a country, just like we are. And I want to get to this next one because I want to sum this up because I want to get out of here. I don't want to bore you because this is the kind of stuff that people don't like to hear. And I didn't put up visuals, but as I go through and break this down, I'm gonna put up visuals to break this down because I don't think America is at a point where they can relate to what's going on in the world unless they have a visual picture behind them. Or unless somebody's screaming and yelling. But when you're breaking down this stuff like Pastor Reagan does, when we asked him to get history, and you see me and Glass just kind of sit back and listen, we listen because he knows what he's talking about, and he tries to break it down to a point to pass that history on to you so you can go out there a little bit more educated. If you're not doing anything, at least you can say, I'm a little bit more educated when I go out there. So this is all established during the Reagan era. I want to get speedy at this. So the actions that's taking place today are themes of deep hostility between both parties. One of them have a reason. It was a lot of covert operations ran within those countries, Iran and Iraq. I don't want to break it down. I just want to get you. A lot of covert operations ran in between Iran and Iraq. It was and sabotage, sanctions, and just conflicts. And it even it's going into cyber warfare and clandestine tactics right now. And it's still affecting us. It's still affecting us. So we're not innocent in any of this. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be acting the way we are, because we're trying to keep it from coming to our shores. But you can't keep it from coming to your shores if, what I said earlier, the borders was wide open. I'm gonna make you think by the time I get off this air. But Reagan era, Iran, U.S. conflict mattered for interpreting, for you to get a great understanding of what's going on today. See, you wouldn't have knew all the stuff I shared with you if you wouldn't have heard it through this podcast today. And this podcast ain't gonna make number one because most people don't want you to know that. That's what you need to understand. They want you to run around dumb. They want you to run around taking stuff from mainstream media, which they ain't talking about the stuff that I just got through breaking down to you, because they know that you won't take the time to listen. You won't take the time to go out and research it for yourself, but you will hold somebody accountable for the whole situation because you didn't do any research, or because they had a one-liner, or because this is a narrative now. You know, if Harris would have got in office, this would have happened. Wake up call. She didn't make it. She didn't make it. Wake up call. She's not the president. Wake up call. She may not ever be the president. We need to get past that. But we need to get an understanding of what's going on today and how it got started, and put the blame where it's supposed to be. That's his legacy. Everybody's worried about their legacy. That is Reagan's legacy. That's the reason why we're fighting this war today. Take ownership. That's the reason why that guy I was telling you about. Every time I listen to him, I get a little bit more educated, and I try to understand the reason why he feels that bad. Man, there's so much going on today that I want to break this down so you can. The last one that I want to get to, and I'm trying to get to it, because if we don't understand how we got here, we ain't gonna never be able to end it. We're never going to get to an end of something unless you understand how you got here. I'm not saying that you could go out there and talk to the Ayatollah and apologize to them and hope that everything's going to be all right tomorrow, but understand how they got here. Understand what got them here and where they're trying to go. And once we can understand that, I think we'll be better at dealing with people. Once we understand that hopefully this social media is holding people accountable. This social media is holding people accountable for more than what they want. You talk about the stuff that's going on today. Yeah, hold Trump accountable for everything that's going on. Hold Trump accountable when he messes up. But if he didn't get there on his own, don't hold him totally accountable. Hold the people that started it. Hold the people that started it. Hold the people that continue to kick that can down the road without trying to address it. And then when it gets to a point where it's got to be handled, don't let all of them come back and say, you know what? I could have did this. I could have did that. You had the opportunity. You was in the office. And Glass, I know that you're going to jump up and down and scream when I say this. 8 years in office. That was one of the conflicts that you could have resolved. 8 years in office. But we know what you resolved. We know what you left us with. And you take total credit for it. But that particular thing is what the reason why people are not coming back to you. That particular thing that you did during those 8 years that you put to the forefront that everybody's resenting right now. That's the reason why it might not be a Democratic Party. As glad after all, as Glass is always saying, excuse me, I must have been getting ready to make a good point. If the Republicans get back in office during midterms and they take the House and the Senate, it's over. I'm using his words. It's over. Democrats can't even get out there and say anything. They're not getting on their soapboxes. You know why? Because they're not holding the right person accountable. See, you could get out there and do you could break down everything that I said because that guy was in the other party. You could hold their feet to the fire, but you can't do it because people won't believe you. You can't do it because people won't believe you. Then you got your little cronies out there in the mainstream media and different places. Or they lock, stock, and step trying to destroy this man. Well, they could destroy you as Democrats. You could go after the record of the Republicans. You could tell them how we got here. You don't even have to fight this modern day war. What's going on in office right now? You don't even have to fight that. Just break it down and help people to understand how we got here. You're worried about the wrong thing. You're worried about getting your name out there and all the rest of that. You're worried about holding, I'm going to call it like it is. You're holding up canes. And you're holding up canes. You worried about somebody's butch-built bad body and all the rest of that. Get some issues behind you. Go back and hold them accountable for the history that they have done. And then you'll have something to stand up for. Let me tell you something. I love this country. I served this country, and I will always love it. And it's no better country than the one that we live in. No better place than to live in this country. But the stuff that happens outside of this country may not affect us right now. But it's this thing, if it continues, it could affect us. But knowing how we got here, I hope I helped you. I hope I shared a little bit of knowledge. I'm running over on my time. I didn't use a bunch of pictures here, but as I break it down, I'm gonna break down some illustrations for you so you can see it as these shorts start coming out. I'm gonna break it down so you can understand it because I can't hold your attention this long and expect you to go with me. Maybe I'm not a Pastor Reagan or whatever, but I tried to direct the conversation where if I only reach one, Glass, if I only reach one, I did my job. Pastor Reagan, if I only reach one, I did my job. D, if I only reach one, I did my job. Go back and review the videos if you have anything that you want to question that I said or anything that you want to fact check. Go back because I kind of put myself in the outline position this time. Try to protect my facts. All right, with that being said, I'm going to say thank God that we still got the good old USA. And God, as they said after they dropped them bombs, God continue to protect us. God, continue to protect the USA. Continue to protect us. Because I don't know if we're ready for a war on our side of the border. I don't know if we're ready for a war on our side of the border. So I'm just going to ask you, Lord, God, just protect us. Good night, well, good day. It's about 4 o'clock where I'm at, 4 p.m. I'm going to say good day, enjoy talking to you. Hopefully you just got a little bit of knowledge. That's all I want to say, a little bit. It don't have to be much, just a little bit. Bye.